thank you for joining us for the Jumpstart Your Path Incoming Student webinar. I'm Kimberly Knowles from the Center for Academic and Student Achievement at USF, and I'll be the main speaker on the webinar today. But you're actually, as you may have discovered if you've been here for a little bit, we'll introduce ourselves later, but we have some other folks from CASA that are all part of the team here today for the webinar. A couple kind of tech things. We highly recommend if you aren't already joining us using the Zoom app on your phone or the Zoom client on your computer. We encourage that if at all possible. If you join through your browser, that's still totally fine. Just be aware that sometimes things with the chat can be a little bit glitchy, or you might not see all the videos of me talking. You might just see the screen. But we are recording this, and I'm actually going on vacation next week, but after I get back in early July, I'm going to send out the link to the recording of this. So if you missed something or if something goes weird with your computer, rest assured you will have a more later opportunity to view this. Also, if you look on sort of your Zoom options, there should be a chat feature. You can use that to throw in any issues you're having. We'll invite you, as questions come up, just go ahead and pop them in the chat. I'll try to address them kind of at the end of each section, and that's partly why we do have some of the other committee members here, so that if there's a quick question, they can potentially address it in the chat feature also. But we're not using the Q&A, just to kind of keep things simple. We didn't want to have to look at two different screens. And let's see, if you can't see the slides or the various websites that I'll be going through today, it's possible that the little video of my head might be getting in the way. My understanding is you can actually move that around, so feel free to use your mouse or your finger or whatever, and if I'm in the way of something you want to see, just move me out of the way. And we just wanted to point out, this is actually the very first time that we're offering this particular webinar, and especially the very first time we're doing a presentation like this via Zoom. So bear with us. It's kind of a maiden voyage, and we appreciate your patience. And we will actually, when the webinar concludes or whenever you leave the meeting, you'll get an invitation to take a feedback survey. We'd really appreciate it if you do take the time to do that, because we're going to be even doing this again in August, so we'll be able to apply your feedback right away. And if you don't have a chance to do it right when you finish, I believe you'll also get an email, or I'll make sure to send out the link one more time, because we really would like your feedback. So yes, I think those are some of the main kind of techie type things. Oh, and we're going to try to conclude as close to 3 o'clock as possible. If for some reason we go over, just go ahead and leave whenever you need to leave. And again, you'll get a link to the recording. So don't worry about missing anything. All right. So before we jump in, I do want to give a chance for my colleagues here just to briefly introduce themselves so you know who's all here. First I'm going to have our first coach introduce herself.
Hi everybody, my name is Brenda Geritano and I'm an academic success coach.
Great.
Hi everyone, I'm also an academic success coach and my name is Denise Mostopi.
Hi everyone, I'm Gina Davis. I'm also a success coach as well as an assistant dean at CASA.
Great. And then I'm also going to have Marie Dutton, who introduced herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Marie Dutton, and I am your pre-health professions advisor on campus.
Great. And we'll have a chance to hear a little bit more from Marie later in the presentation. That's why she's got the special video set up. Okay, let's see. So let's see, I got to get to my PowerPoint controls here. So many windows open. There we go. Okay, so as most of us mentioned, the majority of the committee here is from CASA, which is the Center for Academic and Student Achievement. All of you guys, when you come to USF, you'll eventually be assigned a specific CASA academic success coach. We typically do that towards the end of July or early August. So that's partly why we wanted to have this webinar, to kind of get you some of the advice and things we usually recommend a little bit earlier than normal. But if you do want to talk one-on-one with a coach before that point, feel free to let us know. You can email us at the end or put it in the chat. If you have kind of a burning question that you think you would need a coach's help with, one of us can work with you, in July or this summer, or we can try to help connect you to somebody a little earlier for temporary help. And so you may be wondering, a big question that tends to come for us is, what's the difference between a CASA coach and a faculty advisor? Many of you have probably already interacted with a faculty advisor if you've done one of those web track advising calls. And so, you might be thinking, well, what's the difference? So a CASA coach like us, we basically do 4 key things. We provide academic coaching, we connect you to resources on campus, we provide a supportive environment, and we help you develop skills to navigate the university. So what that means in terms of major and minor exploration is we're really there to be a supportive, ear, like somebody you can really brainstorm about these things. Chances are there's a very good chance you might switch majors along the way. And so we can be there to help you think through, like, well, I don't really like this class. Do you think that means that I should switch to a different, major? Or, well, if I switch to sociology, what can I do with that? Or, where do I go for this? I'm debating switching to psychology. Who do I go talk to? So we're there to kind of help you navigate and think this through and kind of connect you to wherever you need to go. Whereas the faculty, they're really the experts on the curriculum. So, they're the ones when you're thinking, well, gosh, what classes do I need to take, in what order to actually graduate with this major? That'll be the faculty advisors, or the advising team from the major department. And when you want to create kind of a semester by semester or a 4-year plan, I know some of you may be transfers, so obviously maybe a shorter plan, that would be done really most with the different advisors. So if you have a major and a minor, you'd want to kind of work on it with the major department and the minor department and get everyone's feedback on it. Because they're going to be most knowledgeable about what prerequisites you need for which classes. You certainly can run your 4-year plan by your CASA coach. We're always happy to give you some thoughts on it, but we're really not the ultimate experts. And then when you get ready to register, each semester there's a very good chance that you might have, that you'll have an advising hold placed on your record by the university. That's kind of like an extra reminder to make sure that you go to whatever advising is through your department and are guided before you register for that next semester. So that will be removed by your faculty advisor or somebody in your major department. Now, one thing I want to highlight is every department does faculty advising a bit different, because some departments are teeny tiny, like philosophy, and so they have a very low ratio of they have a ton of advisors and not that many students. So you would be meeting one-on-one with your advisor. Whereas other majors like psychology or biology, some of the majors are really huge. And so some of them use like group workshops, group advising that you would go to. Or School of Management has a whole team of drop-in advisors that you can just kind of go see whenever you want. So those students don't typically have a specific advisor until they get a little further in their program. So when in doubt, talk to your CASA coach. We can refer you and connect you up with the program assistant from your department, and we'll figure out who you need to talk to when you get ready to register. Also, in terms of course substitutions, now university core classes like history and science and those sorts of things, those are evaluated by the admissions counselors. But if you're taking a bunch of classes at a community college while you're in high school, or if you're a transfer student and you're trying to figure out like if specific major related classes should go towards that program you're thinking about, that would also be with the faculty advisors, because again, they're kind of the real gurus on their courses. So those are some of the differences. Now, when in doubt, you can always talk to your CASA coach. We're sort of experts at being traffic navigators, and we don't mind any questions. If we think that you should talk to somebody else for more of that information, we will tell you and we'll let you know how to find the person that you need to talk to. So you have a lot of help here at the university. Now, before I jump into the next section, does anybody have any questions about that? If you have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat, and we'll see if we can address it. While I'm waiting for that, I also wanted to mention one other thing. If you're part of any special programs like St. Ignatius Institute or the Honors College, you will probably also want to go through whatever curriculum questions you have with the specific faculty advisors from those departments. So that's why sometimes you end up having a whole team of like 3 or 4 or 5 faculty advisors. And that's why we like having that one kind of consistent CASA coach that's usually assigned to you based on where you're living. Also, let's see, what else was I going to mention? If you're an athlete, you probably would have kind of a specific CASA person that's going to help you with all the like specific ins and outs of NCAA policies. So you have kind of a lot of help. Okay, well, it doesn't seem like we have any specific questions, so I'm going to go ahead and keep going. But if you think of anything along the way, don't hesitate to pop those in. So our agenda for this webinar today is we want to talk about, first of all, why even have a webinar right now? You know, you guys are probably like, hey, I'm going to the beach, I'm working, I'm seeing my friends. Why do I need to do this webinar in the summer? And so I'll tell you a little bit about why we think it's important to start exploring majors and minors now. And then I'm going to go over a bit of the Explore Your Path portal, which is a real big guideline. We think that's like a one-stop shop where you can come in to get a lot of good information about exploring majors and careers and minor options. Marie will briefly go through some pre-health advising, resources and ideas. And then the real meat of it is we're going to talk about 3 key steps that you can take right now, this summer, before you even get to campus, to kind of get you that much further along in your major minor exploration. So without hesitating, we're going to jump right in. So as I mentioned, why get started this summer? The biggest thing is, as you'll find when you get here this fall, life gets really busy once you're here. You know, you're running your whole schedule, you know, everything from what you're eating in the morning to your laundry to your classes. You're going to have lots of social events and possibly extracurricular activities. And so, you know, you're going to be pretty busy, especially once you get into like the, you know, once you get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2 months, 3 months into the semester, life is going to be pretty busy. And so we often will meet with students who are having some major and minor kind of questions and doubts, and we give them some of these ideas of things they can do. And they say, well, that's great, but I've got like 3 midterms next week, and, you know, I've got all these commitments. When do I have time for that? So we're hoping that, you know, even though you're probably working and have things that are, you know, making you busy now, you still have a little bit more time than we think you'll have once you get here. So if you can take that time to do some of the self-reflection and exploration, it'll just make things that much easier. Also, as part of the exploration process, you'll find that one of the big steps is going and talking to the departments. So say you're thinking, oh, I'm debating between psychology and sociology and advertising. Well, once you've gotten to that point, we're going to say, well, go talk to those departments, you know, see a psychology peer advisor, or go visit the program assistants for those departments and find out, you know, what classes are part of those majors and what's the process to get declared. And so a lot of the faculty and program assistants and departments, they're a little bit less busy once the semester gets underway. There's kind of this like sweet spot about 3-4 weeks into the semester before the midterms hit. And so if you've already identified some target majors and minors you want to look at, then, you know, you can just jump right in and go visit those departments and visit the faculty office hours for those departments before they get really, really busy, and before you get really busy. So that's another reason. We also wanted to mention that some majors at USF are what's called like impacted, meaning that there's you know, so many students that want to be in those majors and they can't really take that many more students because they don't have enough classes to offer. And so they all have these sort of special processes. Like for psychology, they like you to do well in Psych 101 first, like Gen Psych. If you're for architecture, you know, it's just really hard to join after the first couple, you know, you got to kind of do that one early. For design, they have a wait list. Biology, I think you have to take a couple biology classes or maybe even chemistry first. Kinesiology has this whole sort of application process. So there's, you know, different processes for majors. So it's a good idea to kind of figure out which ones you're really interested in and contact those departments. So if there's a wait list, you can get on it. Or if there's a prerequisite kind of proving yourself class you got to take first, you can sign up for it. So it's just kind of good to think ahead now while you still have a chance to do something about it. Also, what I sometimes encounter when I'm working with my students is people will come to me, you know, 2, 3, 4 semesters in, and they've taken every single one of their university core requirements, but they've really never taken anything that's like a trial class for a major. And so they've made it through the core and they're like, now what? I have no idea what I want to do. And so we really recommend, you know, to take your core classes, but also, you know, identify a few potential interests and go ahead and take kind of a first class that's going to maybe help you test out that area. Like if you're thinking sociology versus psychology, maybe take both Gen Psych and Intro to Sociology, even though they go towards the same core area. By taking a class in each of those potential interests, you'll kind of get a sense of what those majors are all about. So certainly you don't want to fill up your whole schedule with you know, nothing that's going to go towards the core, but it's good to be strategic and maybe take a few kind of trial classes in the first year, so you get to the end of the year and you have some ideas about what you really want to major in. Kind of on that note, a question that sometimes comes up is, when do you actually have to declare a major? And the university recommends that you officially declare by the end of the first semester of your sophomore year, which is when you hit about 48 credits. That's sort of the official recommendation. Nothing huge happens if you don't make it to that point. It's not like, you get a warning letter and an encouragement to meet with your CASA coach. But we do find that especially for arts and science majors, to really give yourself the best chance of graduating in 4 years, it's a good idea to really do a lot of this exploration your first year, and as you're starting to cruise into sophomore year, to really kind of have an idea of which direction you're going in, so that you have a best chance to finish on time. In School of Management, it's a little different because, they have a lot of the same core for all of their majors. So if you're knowing for sure that you're going to be a school management major, you're just not really sure yet if you want finance or accounting or marketing, you can probably delay it a little bit more, but it just never hurts to start clarifying your interests early. And then finally, educate yourself about other options. We find that there's like these top majors that are just, I think, the only ones that people really know about coming out of high school. There's like the bio, like I'm going to do bio and be pre-med. I'm going to do psychology because I like helping people. I'm going to do business because it sounds practical. And I don't know, there's a couple other ones I'm forgetting, but those are some of the biggies. And so they're like these huge departments. And there's nothing wrong with any of those majors. It's just they're not necessarily for everyone. As Marie will talk later, there's a lot of options to prepare for health careers. There's a lot of different ways to prepare for things in the business world that aren't necessarily a School of Management major. And for helping professions and people who really kind of like learning about how the brain works, there's a lot of other alternatives beyond psychology. So, taking this chance now to look into the options just can get you that much further and maybe help you discover something new and exciting that you'll love. So that's why we're getting started now. Are there any, again, I'm just going to keep cruising ahead, I think, but go ahead and put in the questions if you have questions about anything of that I just covered. Our team here will grab my attention. But now I want to actually walk you guys through the Explore Your Path portal, which is kind of our main portal, with guidance and resources for exploring your major. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. At least I'm going to try. Let's see, actually, I'm going to go over here. So the address, is you can get there from myusf.usfca.edu/exploreyourpath. The CASA part in the address is optional. And I do want to kind of go through the navigation with you, but before we do that, I actually want to play this introduction video for you because I think that will give you a good idea about what it's all about.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Knowles. Welcome to the Explore Your Path portal. Are you overwhelmed by the process of choosing a major? We work with many students who face similar challenges and see them blossom in their new majors. We are confident that this portal will help you find your way. This portal is made up of 4 key sections: Find Yourself, Explore Careers, Explore Majors, and Launch Yourself. In Find Yourself, take the Focus 2 assessment to clarify your interests, personality, skills, and values. In Explore Careers, identify careers that relate to your interests, personality, skills, and values, and any majors you are considering. In Explore Majors, identify majors that will prepare you for any careers you are considering. In Launch Yourself, test your major and career choices through extracurricular activities and internships. Many students report that an experience helped them confirm a major or career interest. Explore the portal sections in any order. Each student is unique, and every journey is different. If you aren't sure where to start, go to Find Yourself first to avoid rushing into decisions. Remember, you are not alone. Over 40% of students change their majors while they are in college. If you need inspiration, check out the various student videos throughout the portal. Your CASA Academic Success Coach is here to support you. The Priscilla A. Scotland Career Services Center is a valuable support as well. We wish you good luck and look forward to hearing about your journey.
Okay, so hopefully you were able to hear that okay. It sounded a little soft on our end here. So if possible, if you'd let us know in the chat if the volume was okay for you. I'm not sure we'd totally be able to fix it, but it would be helpful to know. I'm going to turn the volume up on my computer. The next video will be a little bit louder. anyway, but feel free to watch that again later too if you, want to see it. So anyway, so the Explore Your Path portal has, as they were mentioning, there's 4 key sections that we most recommend. Let's see, we got somebody. Oh, good. Okay, so somebody said the volume was good. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, so find yourself is kind of like the first key section, and really what we think should be kind of your first activity, just kind of figuring out who you are, what you're all about, what's important to you, and that's kind of like a good way to reflect. And so we're going to talk a little bit later about the focus assessment, but that's one key way to kind of look at things. Also, I actually should mention, we also have this additional resources section on the bottom. And there's the self-reflection guides would be really fun for the summer, actually, because there are all these, we'll talk about the focus more later, but the quiet quiz, the personality page, there's like all these sort of fun, not USF sponsored tests and things that can give you ideas about how you think and how you make decisions and, what majors might be interesting to you. So if you have a time, you're just kind of bored one day this summer, maybe take some of those self-reflection guides. And then once you do that, you tend to kind of go in 2 directions. So sometimes you find out, wow, this is kind of who I am and what I'm about. And so I know I want to do this for a career, but what kind of major would go with that? And so that's where it can be helpful to go into the Explore Majors section and kind of look around. This gives ideas about comparing different majors. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about this section later, but it kind of gives ideas about looking at majors and thinking about how those might fit with your career interests. And then on the flip side, you might be like, wow, I just really love studying philosophy, or I really love studying English, but I don't really know what I'm going to do with that. We get that question a lot. So the Explore Careers section of the portal gives a lot of different ideas for kind of researching careers. Every section has a fun quote. And so it gives some ideas of different steps you can take. One that we particularly recommend is this what can I do with this major page. I'll talk about one that's in the focus later, but there's also this separate one where, again, it just has different majors. They're not one-on-one matching with USF, but you can usually get an idea. Like if you're thinking history, you can look up history and see, what are some different major areas, like working for the government or working for businesses, working for a nonprofit, and kind of how to prepare for those different interests. And then career services, who I should also mention, they're actually around this summer too. So if you really want to jump in and get started with career services, contact their office. And I know sometimes they do appointments via Zoom. And so they're really great at helping you actually connect with like real people in the world with LinkedIn. So like if you want to not just theoretically figure out what somebody does with a history major, this gives ideas, and they can give you ideas for how to find like literally if people went to USF and they're majoring in history, like where are they and what are they doing and how can I contact them? And you can kind of have some informational interviews, which are like little kind of journalist type informal conversations with them. So it gives a lot of different ideas. And then there's also this additional section here that we have of like more tools, again, for researching careers. There's one that talks a little bit more about healthcare careers. I think Marie has another one that she likes that I'm intending to put up on this page later this summer. We just haven't gotten to it yet. So there's a lot of cool ideas for like researching different career options on, and that's again kind of in that additional resources. And then Launch Yourself, I think also could be valuable for you guys, especially coming in here as brand new students. I don't know, for some reason, there we go. It's got a lot of ideas about getting involved and really getting real world experiences. So like everything from internships to volunteering, working on campus, studying abroad. It gives kind of links to where you should first get started looking at those things. The Org Finder is an idea to like think about potential clubs you might want to do, although we hear they're kind of moving a little more away from that. So you could always just go to the student leadership page and kind of browse the list of student organizations and see if something piques, an interest. And you'll have a great chance to do that as well when you get here at the involvement fair. There's a big fair where you go and can talk to different clubs. Because sometimes, coming into college, you just might not know that much about yourself. And sometimes, it's actually in doing something that you're like, wow, I really loved that job, or I really loved that volunteer experience. Or I hated that experience, and I know to kind of cross that off and move in a different direction. So that's what that section's all about. And then when you actually get to the point where you're ready to declare your major or minor, you can go in here and it kind of talks about how to do that. Like the best way is usually by filling out the change of program form. But first, they really like you to go and talk to that department and kind of find out the scoop. Okay, let's see. So does anybody have any questions about the portal before I move on to the next section? I think the biggest advice I have about the portal is just to jump in. I mean, that's really why we created it. We actually haven't done that many in-person workshops for a while. We used to have these big workshops where we'd host a workshop and talk about some of these concepts. And we realized that you guys are busy. And so we've tried to put as much kind of on the web, accessible to you. So when you do have a quick moment on the bus or at night or whatever, you can go and do a lot of this stuff, and it's just immediately available to you kind of just in time. All right, doesn't seem like there's any immediate questions. So I'm going to keep going, but again, don't hesitate to put in questions along the way as they come up. Okay, so moving along, I think now it is time for me to bring in Marie. So I'm going to bring Marie in to show you guys a little bit of, give you guys a little bit of tips.
Hi, everyone again. Once again, I'm the pre-health professions advisor at USF. So what that means essentially is that I work with all students and alums who are interested in pursuing a health profession after graduation. The most common would probably be those who identify as pre-med, but pre-health does encompass dentistry, pharmacy, occupational therapy, genetic counseling, physician assistant. So it's vet medicine. So it's a huge variety of health careers that exist. And yeah, my job is to work with students to either help them prepare successfully or sometimes even identify what type of health profession they might be interested in. So a couple of kind of quick tips that I typically give to incoming students is balancing your schedule. The pre-med or pre-health curriculum can be pretty intense, in meaning that you might be taking biology, you might be taking an introductory general chem course. So with that, I typically, recommend that you start slow and steady kind of wins the race, as opposed to jumping out with lots of classes and overloading yourself. We all know that college is exciting, but it's also a huge change in your life. So kind of balancing that, potentially being away from home for the first time, with your course load. So, I work with students. I'm working with a lot of students even over the summer who are incoming students to make sure that they have a balanced schedule. That might be taking just biology and not biology and chem. That might be taking neither courses. That might be taking a preparatory course. So a lot of different options. It's not a one size fits all by any means. And similarly, I work with students who are potentially identifying their major and trying to figure out what prerequisite courses for their health professional program that they need to take. So while we do have a lot of biology majors, it's always my job to kind of bust the myth that you have to be a bio major to be pre-health. There's no statistical advantage to being a bio and going into medical school, for example. So it is about finding the fit that works for you and then fitting in the prerequisites. We do have a lot of bio majors, but we do have psych majors, kinesiology. I do have a philosophy major who's pre-med. So it really does run the gamut. So, part of it is the puzzle is making sure that you're taking the courses that you need and fitting that in with your major requirements. So yeah, bio is not your only option. And then lastly, making sure that you utilize all the resources. In high school, I hear from a lot of students that they didn't necessarily need tutoring or extra resources to do well in their courses. That's, it's more common in college to take advantage of tutoring services. For example, here we have SI for general bio courses. We have peer-led team learning, for general chem. So they've kind of honed in on the courses that are traditionally the most difficult for students and provided these resources. So I always say use every resource at your disposal. Don't be afraid if maybe it is your first time that you're using an extra supplemental learning or tutoring service. That's more the norm for students taking particularly science courses, which is what I focus on with pre-health students. And then, I just want to give my contact information. As I said, I'm working with incoming students over the summer, even answering questions about course scheduling and just getting started, getting ahead, Jumpstart. So feel free to email me at my email is up there. And also the website too. So it gives you some good basic information, but I do recommend, you contact me directly. I have a pre-health listserv that I send out weekly with events happening, UCSF looking for research assistants, clinical opportunities, student org events, all that kind of thing. So if you want to get on that listserv, just email me directly, and I am happy to help in any way I can.
Great. And then also you can make an appointment. Great job, Marie. Yeah, you can make an appointment with Marie also by clicking the scheduled appointment. It pulls up her Google Calendar. Keep aware that sometimes around kind of busy registration times, Marie's appointments do fill up, so you can always contact her directly again if you're having an issue. And she's also kind of partnered with CASA, and a lot of times she'll do drop-in hours close to registration near CASA, so you can kind of just have a quick question. She's available, and we're actually usually available too. CASA tends to have drop-in hours during kind of peak times. Okay, so moving on, let's see. Oh, and Marie does have a pre-med class that she's offering this fall. It is full disclosure, it's full at the moment, but it's gonna give some different tips and tricks and things. So if you're interested, you can also email her. She's trying to explore, like with the department, if there's any way to add any extra spots. Okay, so now I want to jump into the 3 key steps. And again, feel free, again, if you had questions for Marie, feel free to pop those in the chat. I can always bring her back if there's a quick question that you want her to answer in the webinar. But I also want to jump in and talk about 3 key steps, kind of the meat of the presentation is 3 key steps that you can take this summer to find your best major, or at least kind of get further along. The first one that we'll talk about is taking the focus assessment. The second is to review the list of majors and minors. And the third one is to browse the Explore Their Path blog. So let's see, so the first one again, let's see, where's my little clicker? There we go. The first one is to take the focus assessment. So I want to kind of walk you through the focus. First of all, just to sort of say what it is, the focus assessment is something that USF has purchased a subscription to, so that any student here, can take it. And it basically is like it's the thing where you can take some assessments about your interests and your skills and your values and your personality, and see how those actually connect with specific government data, government occupations that are from the government databases on occupations and how to get into them. And so that usually gives ideas about majors. And so it's just a great kind of like do it yourself at home kind of thing. So I want to show you how to use that. So let's see, let's go back to the browser here. Okay, so the best place to get in there would be to go into the Find Yourself section of the portal and click in here where it says the Career Services Testing and Assessment webpage. Note here on the website we talk about the access code being DONS. So when you go in, they also say it, I think again here, this is where you find it. By the way, I just want to highlight here, it does take you to the Career Services website, and they encourage you to schedule time to talk with them as well to review the results. So you can do that by their handshake if you want to make an appointment with Career Services. But what you would do coming in is go here where it says create a new account, and then DONS is the access code, and then you can basically put in your name. Any email is fine. I recommend your USF one just so I think it'll be easier for you to remember later. Create a username and a password for yourself, and save it somewhere in your browser or wherever so you'll remember it. Don't worry about this graduating year. I don't think they've updated the years yet. We don't really track that carefully, so honestly just put whatever. Same thing with the referral. I mean, you can put us, but it's not that big of a deal. But you basically want to create yourself an account. Now I'm going to go back, so from that same page when you go into it again, if you wanted to retake an assessment or do more exploring, you'll log in with your existing account. See, I saved my password, but if you forgot it, you would just reset it and then log in. Now I'm going to take you to what you'll see, which is just the student website, but you should know that all CASA coaches have administrative access to this as well. So that means if you've taken it and you go in to meet with your CASA coach and you're like, hey, let's go over it, they should be able to actually pull it up for you and you guys can go through it together. But when you go in, you'll get taken right to this page here. It'll say welcome, in your name. These first 2 things about the career planning readiness and academic strengths, I can take them or leave them. They're nice. I mean, the career planning readiness will give you an idea of maybe what aspect of exploration you might want to spend the most energy on. And academic strengths is kind of a nice reflection about like, well, what classes did you like the best? And, which ones didn't you like? So it's nice as a reflection. But the real meat of the focus are these things here, the self-assessments. And so we really recommend taking, they each are maybe 10, 15 minutes long. This one will ask you about jobs that it really sound cool to you. This one will ask you questions and give you an idea about how kind of you think and interact with others. The leisure interest, we'll talk about also activities you might like, but in your spare time. And then values and skills are really simple. They really just encourage you to rank different, a value might be, well, I really want to make money, or I really want to secure security versus I really want to help others. So really think through, obviously it'd be great to have them all, but if you had to pick, which ones would be the most important to you? And then skills, again, is what are the things you think are your top skills? And so when you take one of them, for instance, the work interest assessment, it'll show you a graph. So this is mine. I retook it a while back, and it said I was artistic, social, and enterprising. And you can kind of see what, how the, that I'm not realistic at all. That's fixing cars and, being a park ranger and, changing a tire. I've bad at all those things. But anyway, so under here, if you didn't know what the different categories mean, though, they give you kind of bullets about what they are and what they mean. And so it'll do that for each of the assessments. And then you would click continue, and it'll bring you to a screen where you can see how those actually relate to different majors and careers. Now, I'm not going to go through this part of it. I'm going to go back to home. Whenever you need, to get back, you can click the little house there. I'm actually going to do, when you finish a bunch of the assessments, you should do this combine assessments. And what that'll do is kind of similar. You'll just select whichever ones you've taken and then click continue. And now it's the same kind of thing as I had just now, but it's going to show you actually what occupations relate to multiple of your assessments. So, go through a bunch of them. Don't just stop at 4 or 3. I mean, kind of go through the full list, because sometimes you can find a real cool one that you like that's, happens to appear lower. But you can kind of go through, and so there's things you want to look for. And, it'll list what the occupation is. If it's a green job, let's see, I don't think I have any green jobs, but it'll have a little leaf or something, and that would mean that it's for things related to the environment and sustainability. Bright outlook, you can see there was one there that had a little sunshine, so that represents a career that's expected to grow a lot in the future. So there will hopefully be a lot of job opportunities. Salary gives you an idea of what kind of money a typical person makes in that field. It kind of relates to a more general family, and then you can kind of see which specific assessments it related to. And then this part will list majors that it relates to, so you can kind of click in to find out a little bit more about that. And you can make some little notes for yourself. And if you saved it, if I saved, let's say I said I like to make graphics and watch TV. And I could say, yeah, wow, I love that idea. Then I could save it, and it'll actually save that. I don't know. I don't want to click further into it, but basically, you can save it for more information later. And then if you actually click on this little link here, it would actually pull up that department at USF, because it's not necessarily a one-to-one match. Since we subscribe to this, sometimes there's, sometimes it'll pull up a grad program, or it'll pull up a major that's a slightly different name at USF. And so then you can get to this page where you can see what the department, what the major is all about. You can look at some checklists. You can maybe look at some, sometimes they have different profiles on there. And then most important is you can see how to contact that department. It has, their office hours and where they're located and how to email them. Now going back to the focus, what I would recommend is to actually pull up a career. So let's say I wanted to be a special ed teacher, or I didn't know what that was. And you click on it, and it'll give you a lot of really great information. You can see kind of a summary of what a special education teacher does, what the job tasks are. And then this actually pulls that work interest that I was showing you guys before, and it'll compare you. So it compares what my results were to the actual people in that field. So for instance, I tend to be a bit more artistic and creative than a typical special ed teacher, whereas they tend to really like working with people and helping people even more than I tend to do at the moment. So you can kind of get a little comparison. You can see some of the key skills that relate to that career, some of the values, what the work conditions are like. And then this gives idea about some of the different, major and educational requirements. At least it gives an idea. And so again, you could potentially save that major if you were interested in looking at it in more detail. You could click here to pull it up at USF. Now again, some of them will relate to grad programs. Just that's unfortunately one downside of the focus. And then you can see what the outlook is for that occupation. You can see what the typical salary is. You can pull up whatever state you are from or you think you might settle in later. And then the neat thing is, if there is a professional association related to that career, it will give, information for that. And I really encourage you to go into that, because some professional associations have a wealth of information about, careers in that thing. There's ways to maybe connect with other professionals in the field. So it's worth clicking in to see if there's any information that you can get from the professional association. Now I go back to home. The other last thing I just wanted to show you is there's also some great information about majors. So you can click this, like, what can I do with a major in at University of San Francisco? And then what you can do is actually sort by suggested. And what that'll do is these ones that are suggested are the ones that relate to my work interest inventory. So that thing, again, that's the most important assessment to take of the 5. So these are some of the ones that popped up to the top that seem to maybe that people who answered like me tended to really like these majors. And so again, same kind of thing. You can look at it, you can save it, you can get more information. And then let's say I did click in, like let's say I wanted to see what an Asian studies major typically does. Then that's another way to look at occupations. It'll pull up specific occupations that relate to that major. So it can be worth looking through that list as well, because maybe one for whatever reason didn't pop up with your assessments, but you might look into it more and think like, wow, that's really cool. I think I would like to explore that in more detail. So don't think of this as it's not like a prescription for what you should do with your whole life, but we find that it's a really great brainstorming tool. So you can take it, look it over, when you get to campus, or even before if you want to talk to Career Services or CASA, kind of brainstorm it with us. And sometimes in having a conversation, it can help you identify some potential interests you want to explore in more detail. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and we're going to go into the next item. So that was the biggest. The focus assessment is really great and has a lot of help. But next, step number 2, we recommend you review the list of majors and minors. And so what that is, the best way to get to that one is actually under the Explore Majors section. And just go down here where it says USF Majors and Minors list. And so that kind of pulls up, similar to what I was showing you when we clicked on those little link buttons. This shows all the different undergraduate majors and minors that USF currently offers. And so I recommend actually printing it off if possible, if you have a printer, or if you want to be fancy and do some annotating on your Kindle or whatever, you can try that. I'm not that techie, so I couldn't tell you exactly how to do that. But the old school thing is literally you could just print it off and then start clicking through them. Like maybe click into advertising and see, what is that department all about? What do they say about themselves? You can click onto the major checklist and see, what are some typical classes that they offer. You can kind of see that, get a sense of the flow of the curriculum, and then you could click to find out more about that particular class. Every department organizes this slightly differently, but generally there's some really good information on there. And so what we recommend is, go through your list here, and as you're looking at the information, if there's a major or classes that seem really intriguing to you, circle it. And then when you get to campus, go and talk to that department. Or even before, you could contact their program assistant this summer. And so maybe circle the ones, like circle 5 or 6 or 10 that seem intriguing to you. And if there's ones that you look at them and you're like, there's no way I'm going to be a math major, or there's no way I'm going to be a philosophy major, you can cross it off. And then you kind of started to narrow in and get yourself a little bit of a shopping list that you want to explore in more detail once you get here, before the different departments get so busy. So taking the time to do that can be really great. Another thing I should also mention, we have quick links on the portal, and we have a link to the WebTrack, the WebTrack site that you probably went to take the tutorial. Keep in mind that there are tutorials for every major on there as well. And there's usually a little spiel, there's like a section towards the bottom. Let's see, like if you went into a tutorial for arts and science, let's say I was interested in, let's see, there's first like an introduction to it, and then there's usually like a majors section. I guess maybe go into the majors. notes. And then you can, oh, actually, this is a cool site. I'm even going to bookmark that site later. So actually, you can just watch the program-specific videos, which is cool. I'm going to add that to the portal this summer. So keep in mind, we're always looking out for you. When we see something that we think would be useful for your exploration, we try to add it to the portal. So I actually encourage you to even just watch some of these program-specific videos. And that can also give you an idea of ones you want to circle and ones you want to cross off your list. Okay, so anyway, so look at some of the information about majors and minors. Okay, yeah, we're doing good. We're right on time, 2:45. We got about 15 more minutes. So again, as just a quick plug, if you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. You know, we're always happy to answer. But the third thing is to browse the Explore Their Path blog. So let's see, going back to my webinar. So on our portal, we have a section here that says Explore Their Path. And then if you went on there, you would click here to actually get into the blog. And so the blog is where we basically curated content from all kinds of different majors and minors at USF. Because one thing we heard from upperclassmen we used to work with, we did a bunch of work with students to see, well, how could we help people about their majors? And they said, you know, when I was switching majors or when I was undeclared, I would have really just loved to hear from other students. Like, what did they like about their major? What did they do with it? And so we've tried to kind of compile that in this blog. So we basically, whenever we see a cool story in the USF magazine, we link it on here and we tag it by the major or the main kind of bigger area like cultures and humanities or applied art and design that it relates to. Or there was a time when we actually did some interviews. We had an intern that helped us interview some students and we tagged those by the majors, either the major the student was leaving or the major they were entering. And then we have people actually share their story. So like here's an example of a student who filled out what's called our Share Your Path, this form, which we encourage you to do once you get further along, where you sort of share your story. And so like this student, you know, she talked about her different majors and what she likes about those majors, you know, what attracted her to them. She changed majors, so kind of why she did, what she likes about her major and what's challenging about it, and what kind of internships and activities she does related to that, and then just any advice she has. So this is kind of a really great thing when you have time just to honestly just spend some time browsing it, you know, look into it, you know, look at somebody's story. You never know when something might kind of spark for you and you might think, wow, that's cool. I really want to look at that in more detail. And so we're adding content to this all the time. We're actually in July, we're going to try to take some time and add a lot more content. We'll be adding more stuff coming on in the fall. So this is just really great. You can actually look by keywords as well. So like if you wanted to see, I don't know, media and see anything that came up for media, you can see somebody who did, you know, media studies and something about Trevor Noah and his story. So it's got a lot of kind of cool resources. And then I wanted to briefly show you kind of, again, just to emphasize why we think this is important. There's this video that's our kind of pinned post, which really shares some of the inspiration for why we created the blog. So I'm going to go ahead and show that to you guys.
When I was applying to USF originally, I was debating between accounting and biology, which are completely different. I chose biology because I took a lot of science classes in high school, and my AP biology teacher was amazing, and she really inspired me to pursue biology as a career. I really do enjoy science, but I realized that I don't want to make a career out of it necessarily. I really wanted to switch my major, but I kind of wanted to push it a little bit more. I didn't want to give up too soon. Actually, earlier this semester, I got a text message from my mom, and she said, Danielle, if you want to switch your major, go ahead and do it. I support you. And I didn't even talk to her about wanting to switch my major. So even from her viewpoint, she can kind of see I wasn't really happy with being a biology major. So I talked to my classes advisor, and I met with the head of the accounting department, and they were both completely supportive. I went to the mandatory accounting society meeting for freshmen and sophomores, and I really felt, I kind of sat down in like the auditorium in McLaren, and I took a step back and I kind of looked around for a second, and I felt like these are my people, you know? I felt like I really belonged there, and I kind of realized you can't fool yourself into thinking you're something that you're not. So I really felt like I was becoming more of who I am as a person. You know, part of me wishes I just went straight into accounting right when I entered USF, but then I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be sitting here, first of all, and I wouldn't have the knowledge that I acquired over changing my major. So I feel like everything happens for a reason. It's really scary to change your major because you're changing the course of your life in a way. So you have to have a lot of courage to do it, whether you're switching from any major to another. It doesn't matter. It's still a big change. I would say talk to your CASA advisor, and I really think YouTube is a great resource because when you hear different stories, you can kind of identify with that sometimes and find yourself in those stories. So I'd say do that, and definitely maybe sit in a couple classes of a major you're considering and just sit there and listen in and see if that's something you're interested in. And just talk to your advisors, talk to the head of the department you're interested in, just do your research because you don't want to jump into something you have no idea about.
I love that video. Just full disclosure, I love it. You know, and it just reminded me as I was watching that, you know, part of the reason we do this work, I mean, we didn't want to bore all of you with our stories, but the truth is all of us here in this room, we've explored different areas. You know, we've gone from one major to another, we've gone from one career to another, and you know, a big theme in the portal and on our blog is we just want you to realize that you don't have to figure it all out right away. It doesn't mean don't start exploring. Like, we think you're doing great. You know, we really do encourage you to start the exploration process. But there was a little bit of like a misnomer when we said, you know, take 3 steps and find the best major for you. We don't necessarily mean you have to like find it and stick to it and never change it. It's really a journey, you know, that there's 40% of the people change majors and add minors, and you might do one major and decide you want to switch and do a different career direction. And there's a lot of room in your journey to kind of meander. And you're not alone in the journey, and not having it all figured out at any point, really, beginning or middle of or end of your college career doesn't mean you've failed. It just means, you know, you're just part of your, you know, you're just going on your journey. And so that's why we have the portal, and that's why we're here to be a supportive ear and help you think through what you want. So now I want to open it up. You know, we encourage questions along the way, but this is a chance for you to jump in the chat feature and share any questions you have, or, you know, even just share, you know, what majors you're thinking about. You know, let us know. We'll take a couple minutes here to kind of open it up for questions before we have a couple last things to share at the end. Is there a question? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna keep going then, because I do want to make sure to show you guys the last couple slides. But again, please don't hesitate to ask questions. We're definitely here. The one thing I wanted to mention is we have this college success course, 2 courses actually that you can still sign up for. They still are open. The one is great. The College Success 1 is great for learning things that will help you in any major, like time management, study skills, preparing for tests. They do a tiny bit of major exploration as well. You know, because that will help you no matter what. I mean, regardless of what you choose to major in, you know, you're going to want to do well in the classes. So that class, it's offered later in the semester as well. Sometimes people add it if they drop a class, they need an extra credit to help them. And then there's always another class that specifically focuses on exploring majors and careers. A lot of the things we've been talking about today, but if you kind of need that extra motivation of like an actual course to, you know, spur you to do the work and do the self-reflection, then you can sign up. That one's also offered later in the semester, but you can go ahead and sign up for it now. They're both under the interdisciplinary studies department. And then the Major Minor Fair is a really great event that CASA puts on in the fall. So remember we talked about kind of looking through the majors and minors and putting together your shopping list. Well, if you don't have a chance to talk to every department on your list when you first get here, definitely come to the Major Minor Fair. It's always fun. It's out on the plaza in front of the library. There will be food, and you'll have a chance, like all the different departments typically have a booth with faculty or students or people there to help. answer questions or share what they like about that major and minor. And sometimes you go there and you discover a minor, like maybe Chicano studies, that you've never even heard of, you know. And so it's cool. You could be like, wow, I didn't know that existed, and now I want to think about majoring or minoring in that. So mark that on your calendar. It's going to be a fun event. There's usually some food too, like a small amount of food, like a snack. Okay, so in closing, you can do it. This is a big Jesuit quote: go forth and set the world on fire. Again, as I mentioned, it really doesn't matter exactly what you major in. It's just about finding what lights your fire inside that you can then go and share with the world. CASA is here. Your CASA coach will be here to help you every step of the way with not just major exploration, but also things like, you know, stress, family life, you know, difficulty with studies, you know, really anything. People come to us with all kinds of problems and or things they want to explore, and that's what we're here for. But our particular committee focuses on major and minor exploration, and we're so glad you've taken this first step to join us today. You'll be that much further ahead than your peers. Please tell them about this, though. Let them know. We're having another one of these on August, I think it's the 13th or the 14th. It's on that Jumpstart Your Path website. So they can still sign up. Or if they can't make the time, you know, let them know where we are having this recording of it, and I'm going to find a way to share that with you all when I get back from vacation in July. So look for that. And we're glad you're here. So we'll hang on for another couple minutes in case there's any questions that you wanted to ask individually, or if you wanted help connecting with a coach over the summer. But for those of you who don't have any questions, you can go ahead. We're concluding the webinar, but look for that recording, and please take a minute. You should get a survey to fill out when you exit the meeting. Please take just like 5 seconds or a minute to fill that out for us. We would really love your feedback. We're so glad you're here, and we look forward to hearing about your journey. We really hope you'll talk with us and someday share your path on the Explore Their Path blog. Thanks. So again, if you have any